So today we're going to be unpacking some backpacks. You're like, y'all, I'm getting better at this. That's right. We're going to be tackling all things schools for those military kiddos in our lives. So we know that's one of the top considerations when you're making decisions about where to live. And we also know it's just super overwhelming. So you could take your virtual friends' advice in that Facebook group who told you, hey, this is a good school. But we think you can do better than that. So we're going to teach you a little bit and empower you on how to sort of evaluate what your family's needs are, what your kiddos' needs are as learners, and then approach your duty station decisions from an informed perspective and making sure that you have the resources and tools in hand to be able to do that well. So we are going to be sharing our experiences, but then we're also bringing you the experts. So our experts today, we are so fortunate to be joined by Jenny Rasmussen from the Military Child Education Coalition, aka MCEC, which you'll probably hear going forward. She's going to be showing us this amazing resources and just also helping us unpack schools and School Quest. Actually, I love how they say that. So, okay, you guys have an idea of what we're headed into today. Super excited. Let's go ahead and start by welcoming our first panel. So as always, I'm joined by Megan and Jana. And then also we have Jenny here with us today from MCEC. So welcome everybody. How are y'all doing today?
Good.
Doing good.
So I wanted to just start by what kids do you have in your household and what age ranges are they? Because I think that'll help frame, if I'm sharing something, you guys know that I have a just turned middle schooler and a fourth grader. So rounding out elementary school. So my experience thus far has only been up to sixth grade PCSing. So Megan, what about you?
So we have a 5-year-old and we just did our last PCS with him. So I'm new to this. You won't hear from me a lot. I'll be honest. I can give you what our experience was, but ours has been a little bit different.
Awesome. Jana.
So we have 3 kiddos. One is in elementary, one is middle, and we have a high schooler. And then we have experienced both private school, public school, on-base school, as well as international school.
Oh
so
my God, the gamut.
We kind of run the gamut of, we've tried it all.
Awesome. And Jenny, with your answer, I'd also love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself as well. I did not do your bio justice.
Oh, yeah, no, that's okay. So I am an active duty Army spouse. We just finished our 11th move last summer and hoping to stay in this house for just a little while longer. We have a kindergartner, a 6th grader, and a 10th grader. So like Jana, one in each type of school. And we've lived all over the place, though. When we were overseas, the oldest was just 6 weeks old, so school wasn't a problem then. Yeah.
It always seems it's harder in its own way, but it's definitely one less thing to worry about, I guess.
One less thing.
I don't know. You just swap it out with something else. All right. So let's jump our conversation off today, just talking about how to prep for a PCS with kids. So again, we're always trying to frame this for the folks out there who have never PCS before. I think we get a little, I know I do, I get a little stuck in this, oh, everybody's done it. And I say the letters and I go through and I'm like, oh, you already know this. And we forget that there are people starting out from, scratch, from square one, never PCS before. And maybe they have kids they've got to think about. So my first question to just pose to the group is, what do we need to prepare for a PCS with kids?
The social emotional side is one aspect, and then the education side is another separate aspect, right? And so that social emotional preparation is hard for the whole family, don't you think? I mean, it's hard enough for us. We're going through our own goodbye emotions and stress for what's coming, and then we're trying to guide our children through experiencing those emotions, the kind of roller coaster, and letting them know it's normal. It's all that roller coaster is normal.
Yeah, Jana, what were you going to add?
Kind of the same. I think, it's preparing ourselves to prepare the kids. And so getting ourselves in the right place in order to do that. And just having, that ready to go for our kids, because it's a big change. And even if they've only gone to a school for 2 years, then that's what they know. That's their normal. So even thinking about jumping to something new can be very hard and very scary and exciting. But I think just acknowledging that there's going to be a range of emotions and allowing them to have them, as well as yourself. So
I have no advice. I have an experience to share. But our first big move with kids was across the country, and my kids were pretty young. I think my oldest was like 3 going on 4. And I was really sad. Like, I didn't want to move. And so I was like, I'm going to be honest and authentic with my child. And I'm going to let her know that mommy's sad. And I kind of drug her down into this place of like not being able to cope. I had no idea how big of an effect like my mood would have on her. So she was miserable. I mean, as a 3-year-old would be, I don't know if she could have handled it better or not. But on the flip side, the return trip, I was like, I'm not going to do that again. Like, let's try a better tactic. And I will say it was night and day. I could be sad and I could be honest about my sadness, but I had to always kind of sandwich it with like gratitude and, this like positive outlook. And we have the opportunity to live somewhere new and, that whole kind of thing. So I don't know. You guys can try that out for size. It's so tricky because you want them to be that resilient military kid that's kind of the poster child, but then also recognizing that they do have feelings around it and they're going to be, disappointed in their own way. So yeah. What about preparing the kids for the actual move itself versus, just the emotional side of it? What are some things that we can think about when it comes to like engaging them or like making sure that they're active in the move too? Megan, what do you think? Are there like early things? Like, let's start with the littles and we'll move our way up. How about that?
So since we just did it, like I said, we have a 5-year-old and we PCSed from DC to Fort Hood with him before school. And then we just uprooted him in the middle of kindergarten to move back home. One of our biggest resources for the younger kids has been the Sesame Street for the military community. There are a lot of resources there for preparing for the move and everything. And they actually have a game that the kids can play that goes through the entire process. It starts with mom and dad are explaining the move and all of that. And they get to play through the goodbyes and all of that. My son absolutely loved that. And I think it was the way that he finally connected when we got ready to leave DC was, okay, so we're going to do this. Yeah, this is what we're going to do. So I highly recommend that resource. There are several of them out there. Sesame Street is a great one.
Jana, what about you? Do you have any tips, like practical tips for involving your kids?
I think as they get older, what we do is kind of go on the school website and kind of see, especially for the middle school and the high school, as they are starting to do more activities in school, they have more sports opportunities. There's more, drama or art or band or whatever they happen to be in the minute. So I think that that's important, is that kind of information gathering for them so that they can start to have a picture of what's coming. So it's not just kind of blindly like, we're going to this new school and you're going to love it. They can start to really form a picture in their minds of what it's going to be like.
Yeah, because we forget that we've done all this research and we feel like we know the place, but maybe we didn't include the whole family in that process and they're like going in blind. That could be pretty unsettling. Yeah. Jenny, what else would you add?
I think for our older kids too, we involve them in the bucket list of, we're now leaving 6 months out or 3 months out. We said we were going to do these things in this location. Let's pick and choose and prioritize that. And we make a list of what we're going to explore when we get to the new place too. So we're in Pennsylvania now. We're near Hershey Park. So that was, top of the list for some of my kids to go explore and taste all the chocolate there. And as Jana was saying, for the older kids, there's something that my high schooler left behind at her school in Texas, an activity that she was really involved in, and she was very sad about leaving that, and we were sad with her. And then she got here, and turns out, the courses are all different, and she got to take the history of rock and roll, and that wasn't offered in her school in Texas. And so what Jana was saying about exploring that school, and now, with YouTube and Instagram, there's more visuals for the next school and of the next sports team or extracurricular activity than there were in the past. So that can open up the possibilities of what they're going to experience too.
That's high school. What did you say? The history of rock and roll? Like what?
Yeah, I'm really jealous.
That's so neat. That's so neat. All right. We Jana, you touched on this. Maybe you can speak a little more to it. Just let's help folks wrap their heads around what kind of options we have when we're talking about schools. Like just very broadly, what are we looking at? What are we choosing between?
So for us, this is our first time kind of doing the private school, but it just happened to work out better for my daughter. They had more options. They had what she wanted. They had a smaller class size, which was really, really good for her as well. And then, we were international, so that was a whole different animal altogether, was the international schools, because that just took you completely out of, American public school system. So kind of figuring that out as well. But then even here in Florida, they have all sorts of magnet schools and choice schools and all sorts of options that we originally looked into and then ended up settling on the private school for my daughter. And then for my younger two, the base school, it was great. It's been awesome. They love it because they're not the only military kids, and everybody's coming and going, mom or dad are deploying.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is kind of in that mix. And then the teachers, the counselors, everybody's just versed on it. So they
huge.
have really liked it, especially coming from where we came from. They were kind of the only military kids at their school. So all sorts of different options there that we've looked at as we've PCS.
Thanks, Jana. Jenny, can you talk us through maybe some of the things we need to start gathering? So let's say I've got a PCS this summer. I know this might be a big one. I'll give you a
No, it's right beside me.
Oh, good. Okay.
I brought my visuals.
Oh,
right?
I'm so excited.
So some of us on this call have maybe been married a while and part of the military community a while. So I've got my big binder, right, with everything in it. And of course, with the more kids you have, the more it expands. So it has grown with the 3 children and the multiple immunization records and physical forms. But MCEC really wanted to help families organize that and take some of the stress out of trying to remember all of that. We have been a nonprofit organization for over 20 years. And one thing that I think as a coalition that we do well is pulling together lessons learned from across the board, from schools, from military installations, and from families about the experience of moving. And so we created this School Quest website, funded, it's free for everyone, so that we could put the resources there and put the organization there and help with that stress load so that you can address the other things that are stressing you out.
This is just such an amazing resource. I can't wait. Let's touch really briefly on Megan, actually, you had some experience with this too. There's a very underutilized resource on military installations that I think people forget about or maybe just don't know about. And I will tell you from experience, are tricky to find because we actually tried to curate a list once and it was really difficult. Megan, tell us about the school liaison officers.
So you'll hear them called the SLO a lot. We'll go back to the acronyms here. So the school liaison officer is each post has one, and they are we'll say the expert for that post on schools. They can answer. There's not a whole, I don't think there's many questions you can throw at them that they can't answer from what I've seen. They helped us several times while we were at Fort Hood trying to figure out how we were going to navigate our change and everything. They're a wonderful resource. They can help you with off post. They can help you with on post, everything. They're there for you. And it's a really great resource. Google is my best friend to actually find them. I usually just Google whatever post I'm at and SLO, and generally a number comes up. Some posts have, 2 or 3. Some may just have 1, kind of depends on the size and everything. But they by far are one of your best resources that you're going to have. There's nothing wrong with the first phone call you make once you find out, where those orders are going to be cut for, calling the SLO and saying, okay, what have you got? Because just like MCEC, they're going to have stuff they can send you. Even if you're a homeschool family, because that's something that we didn't touch on earlier. We have a lot of homeschool families within the military. They can give you the co-op groups. They have, they have an entire list usually of the co-op groups and what there is for homeschool, regardless of what way you choose to educate your child for that particular post, they're going to know the resources.
Yeah, that's fantastic. The SLOs. I mean, it's one of those acronyms you'll see floating around, and we want you guys to get really comfortable with it because they should just be your best friend when you like get your orders. And then if everything goes smoothly, maybe you never talk to them again, and that's totally fine. But at least you had them in that moment, and they were your best friend, and they can help you with a lot of stuff. All right, so we're going to touch briefly on some of the resources that we have at MILLIE. We have a school scope toolkit. We'll link in the comments in just a sec where you can go find that on the website. You just click toolkits, and you can grab that. We're going to talk you through some of the stuff we've been discussing today, introduce you to maybe some resources, how to use those school ranking websites responsibly. Don't just go by the number, y'all. Like you got to dig a little bit deeper. We'll show you how to get to some other sites and other things like state resources. Also, just know that if you're working with a real estate agent, you're looking at buying a home, you want to just make sure that you are asking questions not like, hey, where's the good school? That's a bad question, honestly. Ask if the schools listed in the MLS stay accurate. Just confirm if if you've maybe already done the legwork and decided on a school, interviewed the school, talk to the SLO, all of these things that we're going to talk you through today. Just make sure that you're tracking with your real estate agent that the boundaries are staying in place, right? Sometimes places get rezoned. Ask your real estate agent where they can find accurate zoning information. They can help you provide you with that. And then also just making sure that you're telling them like, hey, this is a concern and these are the concerns that I have around my learner versus the more broad, like, oh, we want the better school. Like, again, it's loaded for a lot of reasons, but make sure that you're coming at it from a place of like, hey, these are my kids. This is my kid. These are the needs that we have. And this is what we're looking for. If you can support that, that'd be great.